Good morning everyone, I hope you're all well. Something a little bit different again today. So it's Friday the 1st of March and today I'm heading off up to East Yorkshire, which I do every year with a couple of mates, and we're going to head up to fish the European Open Beach Championships. We've been for the last 3 years. So it's a competition that's held on the East Yorkshire beaches from the furthest northern point is Bridlington, and the furthest point south is Spurn Point, which is just outside Hull. So it's about a 4-hour journey. We're not sort of in any rush this morning. It's 9 o'clock. We've got accommodation booked on the Sandlermere Holiday Park, which is the central headquarters for the whole event. It's where all the entertainment, presentations and bar, restaurant and all that stuff is. So we've got an accommodation booked on there, which we can't get in till 4 p.m. So the idea is we'll have a nice leisurely drive up this morning, and then when we get to that part of the coast, we'll go and have a look at a few prospective marks for tomorrow. So the match is Saturday and Sunday, 2-day event. So the way they do it is, with that amount of coastline, you're talking around about 40 plus miles of coastline between Bridlington and Spurn, and along there is various places where you can get down. Access varies from one bit to another really. Some of it's easy access where you can literally park in car parks or just off road and walk straight onto the beach. Other places you've got cliffs where the get down, as they call them up there, the get downs can be a bit precarious really, with soft mud, steep slopes, and if it's any sort of wet conditions, can be a little bit slippery. So we're not intending to fish any of those dodgy cliff marks. We've got 2 or 3 flatter beaches with easier access. It's where we're going to try. So we're going to scope them out when we get there, because we want to try and get there to see them at low tide, and unfortunately for us today, low tide is about 2:30 this afternoon, so that will enable us to get there, have a look and get a layout of what the actual seabed looks like, see if we can find any features, any gullies or anything that looks deeper, any areas that look deeper than other areas. So we've had a little blow up in the last few days after it being flat for a complete week, and what the locals are saying is that sometimes disturbs the weed, puts it into the water, and then it ends up on the beach, can make your fishing a little bit dodgy. So both days, the match fishing times are from 9 a.m. on the Saturday to 3 p.m. on the Saturday. Same on the Sunday, and then depending on which part of that coastline you fish, you've got to get back to the HQ at Sandlermere to be ready inside the compound to weigh in anything you've got by 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock the weigh-in shuts, so if you're not in the queue, you don't get to weigh in. So you have to sort of juggle where you're fishing. Can you get packed up, back on the road and back to the camp in time for the 4 p.m. cut-off? So the places we look are normally around about half an hour from the headquarters. So that gives us a good, easy chance of getting packed away, getting back and weighing in anything we catch. So that's over the 2 days. So the object of the exercise is really to get a couple of decent fish, one on each day, and that'll give you a good chance of getting on the prize board, and that goes down to about 20 odd places, I believe. Could be up to 1,000 people. I've heard rumours this year, as it's the 30th anniversary of this competition, that the attendance could be as much as 1,500 people. So those 1,500 people could be spread anywhere between Bridlington and Spurn Point. So there's plenty of room to fit that amount in. So that's a general idea of it. Try and get something on the Saturday, get back, get weighed in, then it's all to go for on the Sunday then. And the last couple of years, believe it or not, it's been quite a low winning weight. With someone, I think they had something like a 2 kilo codling on the Saturday and a slightly smaller one on the Sunday, but that was enough to win overall, I believe. You do get the odd bigger fish, so it's almost run as 2 separate matches really. You'll get a winner on the Saturday and a winner on the Sunday, and that biggest single fish, and then you'll get the accumulative Saturday and Sunday for the overall. So the fish we're targeting over the weekend is normally codling and bass. They'll be the main two, but this year with the bass regulations changing, bass are not allowed until the 1st of April this year, so we won't be allowed to actually record and weigh those in, because that's one thing I did forget to mention, that when you record a fish that's in size that you're going to take back and weigh in, you're actually obviously not going to return it. So with the catch and release only for bass, we can't take them back to the weigh-in this year. So normally the predominant species everyone's looking for is codling. Back in the January and to the early part of February, they were quite prolific, and there's been some quite big ones caught, up to high double figures. But they seem to have thinned out in the last couple of weeks, and there's just odd ones coming out now. But the bonus this year is, because the bass are not allowed, there's something else we can target, is thornback rays, and there has been quite a few of those coming out. So it's another little target we can go for if we're not in an area where there's any cod. So if we actually end up in an area where there's no codling being caught, maybe the thornback ray could be a target. So you've got to sort of take a few baits with them in mind as well. Baits on this coast, what we'll be using, fresh yellowtails, and then we'll have both fresh and frozen black lugworm, squid, and squid's a good bait because you can pick up both codling and the rays with the squid. People will take other baits as well, but that's basically what I'm taking, and all I've put in extra is 4 herring, so I'll cut those herring up strips for the rays as well. So just got to tick off now a 3.5-4 hours drive, and we'll get down to the area and have a look round. So what's been a fairly sort of torturous journey really. We've had some pretty grim weather most of the way. Loads of rain and spray everywhere, and which has obviously made the traffic all slowed down. But we're finally out in the area now. We're just going to our first mark before we go to the caravan. We're going to check out a couple of marks on the way to the caravan. The first place we're going to check is Kilnsea. So Kilnsea is the nearest venue to Spurn Point, which is like the southern end of the boundary. So yeah, just as we've got here now, the rain's eased off. The sun looks like it might come out, but with all this rain, I should think it's going to make a lot of this coastline very, very slippery and hard to get down. So that'll be one of the factors that we'll have to consider in choosing where we're going to start tomorrow morning. Well, it seems like we've been blessed with that nasty old swell again, and there's a cutting, freezing cold wind coming down from the south today. This is the Friday before the match. Massive great lump of beach here. I think you're going to have to walk quite a way up there to get a fishing spot, because there's a lot of rough ground out the front of these. So these look like old pillboxes and stuff that have all broken down and gone in the sea, so it's quite rough out there. It's fairly shallow as well, the way them breakers. A little bit deeper this side, but yeah, hopefully this wind's going to drop off tonight and give us a chance. Going to move down the coast a little bit now to our next mark and have a look and see how that goes. So we've just moved up the coast a little bit to Easington. This is just north of where we was, Kilnsea. It's a little bit calmer this end, and there doesn't seem to be as much junk in the water either, debris. So this is going to be a consideration for tomorrow. Either side, you can just see in the far distance Kilnsea. So after we stopped off at Easington, we just dropped in and had a quick look as we drove past a couple of other marks on the way through, and the car parks were absolutely flooded with water. They're all mud car parks as well, so virtually ruling out any parking in there means those marks are definitely off the list. But they also involved walking down mud steps and things like that, so they would have probably been out of the question anyway with all this rain. We've just had an absolute downpour as well. So we're on our way to San Lemire. We're going to check in, get our caravan, get the cars unloaded, get the kettle on and settle in. Weather's just brightening up a bit now. Again, it's been coming and going. It's got bright weather in the distance. We just spoke to a couple of locals at the last place we stopped, and he said tomorrow that surf and the sea will all flatten out and it'll be a lot better. So fingers crossed that happens. We get some decent conditions. And here we are, San Lemire. Remember the speed bumps this year, and they're quite brutal ones. It's quite busy today. We're normally here a lot earlier than this, so I'm not surprised. Lucky last. Well, good morning everyone. As you can see, even silly o'clock, and we've also woke up to our usual EOBC weather. So we had a massive great rainstorm last night, the wind's howling, and it sounds like the sea's howling as well. What we decided to do is we're going to set off to our furthest mark this morning, have a look, see if it's fishable, and then if it is, we'll get cracking on that. If not, we may then work our way back, checking other marks out. We may even have to abort what we're going to do and move north of the camp. We're going to start off on the south beaches, take a chance with the weed and see what happens. Let's get started. So it's just about first light now, sunrise over there, just coming up. Day one, we've chose to fish on Easington Beach. Very busy when we got here this morning, and we got here like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the car park was already rammed. A lot of people who were sitting in cars waiting, so they'd obviously been there overnight, I would assume. And yeah, we walked along, found what looked like a deeper spot here, and it's got a nice gully running. We reckon about 60 yards from the rod rest, so should be easily reachable. Got about 2 and a bit hours to high tide. The sea's calmed down a lot from yesterday, so it does look fishable at the moment. Just going to have a couple of practice casts in a minute to see if there's any weed in the water. We've got the breakfast being cooked at the moment. We've got the Damien and Dan on the stove. So we've got sausage and bacon rolls coming up before we get started. Always a highlight of the day. Okay, so a bit of a progress report, or should I say a lack of progress. Literally that sea from 7 o'clock this morning right up until 9 AM, the start time, was reasonably flat with just a little bit of wash in the edge. We've been 1 hour into the match, and basically it's turned into its normal washing machine. You literally can't hold a cast out there for more than 5 minutes. It's not the actual swell that's pushing it, it's this very fine weed pulling your lead out the bottom. But it's actually roughed up. The wind swung southeasterly from a south this morning when we started, and basically it's almost unfishable. You're spending 5 minutes in the water and then 10 minutes cleaning your rig of all the weed and everything. So there's quite a few people who've got their rods out the water at the moment, just having a little bit of a break. I have seen one tiny little fish caught, a little whiting, about 3 anglers down to my left, and to be honest I don't think he even knew it was on. It was basically reeling in, clearing the weed, reeling in a bit more, clearing some more weed. When he eventually got to his lead, there was a whiting hanging on, but it was undersized, so that went straight back. Right, so just a little update. Not much to report really on the fish front, but as you can probably see from these pictures, the conditions have drastically changed. So we've been fishing for about an hour and a quarter now, and that was fairly flat with the odd little few waves at the start, and now it's raging in for 75-80 yards out. But that's not really the main problem. Main problem now is we're also picking up a lot of weed. Virtually every angler is only being able to keep the rod in the water now for probably 5 minutes tops, and then it's a full washing line, and yeah, I'm spending longer cleaning the line off than I'm actually having it with a rig in the water. So the old EOBC jinx strikes again with the weather. Tomorrow we're promised flat calm waters with a 3 mile an hour westerly wind. So we started off today with flat calm waters, and I think it was about 18 miles per hour, but southerly when we got here this morning. It's now swung southeast, and that's what's causing these swells. Yeah, it's not good. Well, I'm just having a little break here for something to eat and drink, and then I've done another couple of baits. I'll go back down. I found by casting out and then standing right on the very edge, holding my rod upright, I can keep it for about 6 or 7 minutes in position. But eventually the little blobs of weed grab your line, pull you around, and then you're spending the next 5 or 6 minutes picking it all off. So yeah, a bit frustrating, but there you go. Well, there we are. It's coming up to 12:15, and we're done and dusted for the day, unfortunately. We sat there from 6 o'clock this morning till 9 at the match start in absolutely perfect conditions. Just a tiny little bit of swell, light little breeze from the south, very manageable. And the match started at 9, and I'd say within 20 minutes that wind had started to swing, and it also started to pick up in strength. And I reckon by 9:30 it was blowing a hoolie. It didn't take long for the surf to pick up, so our little 3 or 4 yard surf suddenly became 15, 20, 30, and we've just left it, and it's breaking over 100 yards out. So very disappointing. It was also solid with weed at the end. After that very early get up, we're having an early bath, so I think we're going to go back and, as I say, get cleaned up, have a drink, have a chat, and then maybe have a doze before we go down to see today's results. Be interesting to see where any fish come out of. so that's probably what we'll be doing. Well, good morning everybody. We're up bright and early for day 2 of the competition. It's just before 2:30 in the morning, and it's just showing 3 degrees on the temperature gauge. It's a little bit of a fresh start. So after yesterday's, well, not disaster, but being a bit disappointed with being forced off the beach without being able to fish with the weed, went back a little bit despondent back to the HQ last night, but it soon became clear that the competition had fished very hard for everyone, not just the end we was at. So after speaking to a few people who had been to different areas, it seems like it was very much the same. The first hour and a half was critical, as when most of the fish got caught from the people I know, and after that the conditions deteriorated, the weed showed up, and everyone was in the same boat really, as it roughed up towards lunchtime. So after we sat down and had something to eat and a drink and a chat, they started posting some results up, and to our surprise, it's a very been scratchy for everyone. Now if I was to tell you, there was 2 rays caught, and I think one of them, the biggest one yesterday, was 2 kilo 400, and there was a slightly smaller one. They filled the first and second places overall yesterday. There was also a few codling caught, and the biggest one of those would have been just over 2 kilos, so a very low weight affair considering 1,500 anglers taking part, spread all over that bit of coastline. And what we've decided to do is to go back where we fished yesterday and pray and hope that that weed has dropped out the water, because if it has, I think we've got a realistic chance of catching there. Now the weather forecast today is supposed to be a lot different from yesterday. Initially it was supposed to be a very light westerly wind and a low chop on the water, and also bearing in mind we're fishing an hour later today for the tides, so it may well give us a couple of hours good fishing at the start rather than that first hour. We literally started yesterday's match on top of high tide exactly, and the water was falling away after that all morning. So we'll at least get an extra hour of that this morning, and if we can get away with no weed, then I'm sure we've got a chance of catching something. And looking at that yesterday's results, if it fishes anything like that, you're not going to need a great deal to actually appear on the score chart. So that's the plan today. We've got all the same setups as we had yesterday. We've got baits for codling, all rays, and it'll be a question of how calm it is, whether to which we target, codling or rays. Okay. So here we are back. We've decided to come back to the same venue as yesterday. We were a little bit stuck on which way to go. There was nothing really wrong with this place yesterday except the weed, so that's what we're hoping. The sea's flattened out a little bit, still got a little bit of in the edge, but behind that it's flat calm. And so we're going to give it a go. The beach is starting to fill up again. Not perhaps quite as many as yesterday this time. Well, we're talking about it's just before 7 AM now, and it's breakfast time, so the old breakfast bacon rolls on the go. Dan's back on the old stove, cooking away. Damien's now tying a few bits and pieces up. We're going to have a test cast in a minute with the lead, just to see if there's anything weed wise. Not much we can do about it if there is, but fingers crossed. You can see flattening out a bit like that. We might get away with it today. Hopefully bring you a fish or two on the camera. Yep, I'm now going to devour my bacon roll and take it from there. I might get me lead on in a minute and have a few test casts as well, just to make sure everything's spot on. I'll I'll catch up with you a little bit later. So what we done when we first got here is come down and have a scope out on the beach, and in several places in front of us we've got the odd little rock like that one there in front. They're quite smooth and they don't stick up too far. That's sort of like a odd one dotted about here and there, but that's formed like a gully. You see where this water's breaking over it now. So I know where that is later on. Once the tide come up, I'll put a line of white stones up the beach there, so I can get an idea where I'm casting and where that rock is. That's the plan. I'll run through a bit of the tackle in a minute, show you what we're using. We're all using pretty much the same gear, so I'll go through all the tackle and baits and show you what's what. Okay, so we've just got about 20 minutes now till we start, and I'll just quickly run through the tackle for today. So I'm using my Tournament Pros Mark IIs, and then I've loaded up new line on my multipliers, a 15-pound main line and a 70-pound shock leader. And the business end is going to be a 2-foot pulley rig, pennel hook arrangement. There's a 6-ounce lead on there, and what I've done is where I can detach my hook link there, I've got 2 or 3 other hook links. I can bait up with different baits, different size hooks, and just put them on. So bait wise, as you can see on the bait tray there, I've got a nice fresh herring bait that's already on a trace, ready to be attached to that pulley rig. And then I've got a squid and black wrap there, and over there I've got a couple of yellow tails out of the main storage, which I'll probably start on. I'll probably start on a couple of yellow tails, and I'm going to cast that around about 50 to 60 yards into the gutter, which is just behind where that's breaking now. It's a nice gentle little lob, and that's the deepest part. It's like a gully form there. We saw it at low water, so I'm going to start off in there and see how we go. And then after that, the second hour from high tide, for the next couple of hours, I'm going to go all out for a ray with the fish baits. Bearing in mind at this particular time before the match starts, the first 2 positions in the overall are 2 rays, and they're only just over 2 kilos, so just got to fish it now, all out, enjoy a day's fishing on the beach hopefully. Right, a quick update. The first hour's just passed and we're just going over the top of the tide now. The good news is I've had a fish. I've had a couple of little bites before that, and then I managed to hit a bite. So I've had a couple of little indications before the bite, and then a proper bite, and I felt something on, and it was a little whiting. Unfortunately, it was 30 centimetres, which is 5 centimetres short for this competition, but it does avoid the dreaded blank, I suppose, and we are still early in the competition. And that actually came on a small herring fillet, punched out as far as I could, which I said I was going to do just after the top of the tide. Almost instantly, straight away, fish. Not the intended species, but you never know. So that's now going to concentrate me to do the next at least hour on fresh fish. And I'll keep rotating the baits about every 15 minutes or until I get disturbed by a bite, with a bit of luck. I'm getting another few little taps on that, so I think I'm going to get that in, refresh the bait if it's not a fish. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. Weight change, squid and black lug. Get that back out. there's another Norfolk boy catching whiting. 31 centimetres, so just 4 centimetres short this one. Mine was 30. So the £50 side bet we've all got going on for the biggest fish is now currently Damien's. Poor old Dan, still blanking, but never mind Dan, I'm sure it'll come good in the end. Okay, just a little update. It's just coming up to 12 o'clock now, so 3 hours into the match. And as you can see, the tide's already disappearing quite fast. It's a real shame this year that the start time was literally an hour before high tide, because we've been losing the water ever since. Both myself and Damien next door both had a whiting, virtually on high tide, just 10ish, and then Damien's had another one just a little while after, and just about 10 minutes ago, up to our right up there, we think a sizable codling has been caught. So there is a chance there's still a few fish about. We are getting less and less water to fish in as time goes on. So yeah, just keep pressing on, and I'm banging out baits about every 10 to 15 minutes now. If I don't get any indications of bites, I'm changing the bait anyway. Just press on now. It's a 3 o'clock finish. I'm not quite sure how much water we're going to have here at 3 o'clock, so it might be a little bit earlier for us. But thoroughly enjoyed the day. Much better weather than the last couple of days, and yeah, saved the blank with a whiting, so can't really grumble. Just about an hour to go now, and sea's disappearing quite fast now. I'll just pan round, you can see what I mean. We've got a big lump of sand here now. This is what we were fishing on earlier. So from way back up there, we were casting over onto this sand. As you can see, you've got the odd snag here. There's my rock there, which was my marker when I was casting earlier on. And we've got the like a rolling swell now, building up from quite a long way out. And that's reduced the whole lot to foam, basically. But I've got whole squid baits on now. I've been trying for a ray virtually since I had the whiting, because that's the only thing I think that will get you out of jail. I've had a few little goes with the worm for a cod, but not shown up. There has been one right up there when that guy's walking back. There's been a small one up there. I don't know how big, but it's in size, I've heard. So not a million miles away, and it's been better than it has the last couple of years. So at least we've been out of fish reasonably this afternoon. We haven't had too much bother with the weed. We're just getting a little bit more now, turning up on the lead or not. So I'm probably going to do another couple of casts. I've got two baits made up already to go on the snoods. Got one hanging there ready. I've got another one over there on the seat box. So I'll probably do those casts, and then might be a slow sort of pack up. But I'm going to wrap that up here now. Can't wait to get home really. I've got King of the Shingle final leg tomorrow night. I've got to try and do as best I can in that. I think it's impossible for me to win it, but I can finish up fairly near the top. I would have thought 4th or 5th or something, but I need to win my section and others results to go my way. So yep, that's what I'm going to do. We're going to have a slow pack up in a minute, and then get back to the caravan. Well, good morning everyone, and that is it for this year's competition. So we've had a bit of a lie-in this morning, and it's just 5 o'clock now. We're going to set off home, leaving a bit early to try and avoid some of the traffic. Yeah, so after all the sort of planning and preparation and build up to it, it seems to have come and gone in what seems like a matter of hours. I know it wasn't, but yeah, at least we got this year to have a full day's proper fishing yesterday in much better conditions, and actually managed to avoid a blank. Still haven't managed to recall one on the scorecard yet, but that wasn't just me. I think looking at some of the stats from last night, 176 anglers weighed in over the 2 days. So out of a potential 1,500 entrants, so it's still quite a low probability of putting something on the table on the score sheet. I know there would have been a lot more people who would have caught maybe one small codling that would have been in size but didn't bother. I spoke to a guy yesterday when we was loading the cars, and he'd heard of loads more fish than what he had, so although his fish would have been in size and able to record, he wasn't going to bother. He was going to set straight back off home. So, and there would also be the people like myself who have caught a fish but undersized, so there wouldn't, all those wouldn't have been blanks, if you get what I mean. So yeah, not bad. Got to really give the winner of the mention. That's a young lad who won it last year. So he's won it back to back, which is, I don't think ever been done before. So well done to him. He didn't catch nothing on the Saturday, but he weighed in 4 kilo 500 or something. Best part of £12, I think, yesterday, and that took the overall event. So it just shows you, if you blow out on the Saturday, you can still win the event by catching well on the Sunday. So well done to him, and well done to everyone else who managed to get on the score sheet and win a prize. And yeah, so we're now going to sort of just warming the car. It's -1 at the moment, so everything's just been defrosted. We've got what's going to be a slow draw back to Hull. I think we've got quite a bit of roadworks in Hull as well, which I'm not quite sure when they pack them away, so we may well run into those as well. So that's why we've left a little bit early. Once we clear Hull, it should be fairly straightforward. So that will be it. I don't think there's anything else to say. Not sure I'll come back and do it next year, but then again, we say that every year. But no. So I'm going to sign off here now. Hope you people who haven't been and are thinking about coming, gives you a little bit of information and an insight to what's involved. You've got to be prepared to get up early, especially on the Saturday. If you've got a particular beach in mind, it's not so much the beach. There's always plenty of good access on the beach. It's the parking that you need to be up early for. Sunday, it's always a little bit calmer on the Sunday, because I think a lot of people, if they haven't caught on the Saturday, they sort of tend to have more of a lie-in and they arrive later. We got to the car park on Saturday morning and we were parked about 300 metres from the cliff top access. When we got there yesterday, there wasn't a single car there, and we got there at the same time. So there's no need to sort of go mad on the Sunday. You can take it a bit easier. And we saw there was less people up the part where we fished, and the ones that did arrived later. So you haven't got to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it does help if you're going to a popular venue. So that's it. I'm going to sign off now, concentrate on the drive, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much for watching.